Hello. So a friend of mine has been bugging me to upload some Dwarf Fortress gameplay videos. Hi James. So here I am, I thought I'd give it a go. For those that don't know what Dwarf Fortress is, it's a game that's been in development since basically forever. Imagine it's a bit like The Sims, except all of your Sims are angry, grumpy little dwarves who you have no direct control over, who need constant amounts of alcohol or else they throw tantrums and destroy everything, and everything else in the world is trying to kill and or eat them, and you have to look after them. Oh, and you can have a couple of hundred at some points as well, which is, you know, hectic. It's also known for being a complicated game, for being incredibly detailed, and for being really quite easy to lose. It's very simple to make a mistake and screw up your game, destroy your fortress, kill all your dwarves in some horrendous accident, which is why the game has an unofficial tagline of "losing is fun." That's fun with a capital F for anyone taking notes, which is supposed to kind of sum up the spirit of Dwarf Fortress, which is go for it, don't worry if you lose, you can always start again. You probably will lose, that is. It's also fairly well known for its graphical style, or lack thereof, I guess. Some people play with mods and tile sets to make it look a bit prettier, but I like the classic look. I imagine several people are staring at this and wondering, what the hell is on my screen? What are all these commas and dots and apostrophes and so on? It's a bit like the Matrix. Once you get used to it, you stop seeing all the dots and the commas, and you just start seeing grass and trees and dwarves and horrible death round every corner. But you get used to it. But for those who aren't used to it, I thought I'd just give a quick sort of overview of what's going on the screen right now. So we're looking around here. This is a top-down view of a horizontal slice, a Z level of the world, and I can move around sort of two axes like this, and then I can move up and down the Z axis, which I will do in a minute. But this is a horizontal slice, and we're looking top down, and we're looking at the base of a mountain or a hill here. All the green stuff is all grass and plants of various kinds. You can see quite a few plants. It's kind of a forested area. There's a fair few trees around. The brown O's and the little brown squares and all that's hanging around. Those are all the bases of trees. So trees span several Z levels because they're quite tall things. So you'll see the rest of the trees in a minute, but those are the bases of trees. So there's a lot of trees around, so this is kind of a forested area. The blue sort of splotches hanging around, those are various ponds, and the big light blue and white thing going through the middle there, that's a river flowing through the middle. The game's paused at the minute, which is why nothing's moving, but if I unpause the game, you'll see the river flowing. You see which way it goes. It goes downstream down here. So you can see the river flow. I'll just pause it again so we don't lose the dwarfs. In the middle of the screen now, there's the sort of yellow square next to the pond. That's the wagon all my dwarves arrived in. It's got all their stuff, it's got all their furniture, all their pickaxes that they're going to use to dig out their new home. Hanging around that, all the little smiley faces, are my dwarves. You can see several of them in a minute. There's a white one, there's a green one, a yellow one, a couple of others hanging around there. And there's a couple of other things around. You see a couple more trees near the wagon. I'm not quite sure how they got it wedged in there. You can see there's a little lowercase d over here. That's a dog. A tame dog that they've got along with them. There's the capital Y, that's a yak, and I think there's another yak. Yeah, there's another yak hanging around here. Those were probably the two that were pulling the wagon. There's a little lowercase c here, that's a cat hanging around in the back there. This black stuff, all the black is unrevealed terrain, so that's all underground and I can't see what it is yet. Right at the edges you can see the type of terrain it is, so this sort of grey stuff here with the ticks, this is the edge of the same stuff. So I can see that if I look at it, that's borax. So that's rock, basically. And there's a couple of different kinds of rock around. If I go up here, there's this grey with the yellow equals. That's a different kind of rock. That's going to be sylvite, apparently. And here we have some rock salt. So there's various different kinds of rocks scattered around. The yellow will be sand or dirt of some kind. If I look at that, that's loamy sand, apparently. So there's a couple of different sort of ground types going along on the side of this hill here. The little triangles that line all that indicate that there are sloped edges. They're called ramps in the game, but it's really just a sloped edge. So basically we're looking at a fairly flat sort of forest for most of this area, and then there's sloped edges going up the side of this hill, most of which is made of rock, but there's some loamy sand around. If I now go up a Z level, you'll see that what we could see kind of falls away below the tops of all those trees. So all that sort of green and white tree leaves and tree blossoms, and this place really is a fair hefty forest. And you can see, I'll just go back down for a second, you can see if I go up over here, you'll see that it kind of recedes away, and there's a bit of flat ground above where the ramps were previously, but not much, kind of the wall carries on up. So this is a fairly steep, a fairly sheer cliff face up the side of this mountain that I'm next to. You can see on the far right of the screen there's a map of the overall area, and all that grey there, that's all mountain that I've come next to, because dwarves like their mountains, they like somewhere to go digging. So it's helpful to have the dwarves near a mountain, they much prefer it. There's a little bit of sand still around, but most of this is rock now, it's kind of opening up. And as I keep going up the Z levels, you see it sort of going further and further away from the centre, but it's still fairly steep, fairly sharp. It's a fair cliff face, and then, oh look, it opens out up here. So we've got, just up here, it kind of opens into a mountain pass high in the mountains. If I go right to the top, you can see top of the mountain up here. That's as high as the mountain goes. This blue stuff is empty space. It just means that there's something below, but you're not near enough to it to see what it is. So if I go back down to where the dwarves are, you can see that if I go up a level, all the terrain on the far left of the screen, that all falls down. So all those little sort of coloured dots show that I can see what's down there. I can still see the river, I can still see all the grass, but I can't see it in quite such detail as when I'm on this level actually looking at it. Go up a level to where the trees are, I can still see that there's ground there, I just can't see it in quite such detailed level. If I go up again, it becomes empty space because I'm now too far above it, but I can still see the trees. The trees are quite tall, they're going to go up for several levels. I keep going up, there we go. So these are kind of the tops of the trees in the middle. If I go look at those, we've got some candlenut flowers there, we've got some willow twigs. And over here we've got some mango trees. So there's several different kinds of trees, fruit trees and sort of exotic trees hanging around this area. If I go, you can go down into the earth as well, so if I go down you can see the riverbed and all the river flowing through there, and various amounts of sand and little cavities that water can flow into. You can see the base of all the ponds here. These are all going to be tree roots digging into the ground. So they're all going to be lining the river and lining the ponds. That's where the trees have been getting their water from. If I go down another level, you'll see that it all goes black because I can't see any of this, but I could dig down here and have a look. And I can keep going down and down and down and down and down, though I won't see anything, so there's really no point at the moment. So that is Dwarf Fortress, that is the interface. I'll try and keep a running commentary of what's going on, so you don't need to remember everything. But that's a brief introduction to what it looks like. So I'm not going to play this game. I'm going to abandon that and go back to the menu, and I'm going to generate a brand new world and start completely from scratch. I haven't played in a while, so I don't really know what's new. I had a quick flick through the changelog. I think the last version I played was 42 something, and this is 43 something. So I think it's mostly small changes, but I don't really know what's gonna happen. I don't really know what I'm gonna go up against. But that's really the best way to play Dwarf Fortress is not knowing. It's a game that rewards just trying and seeing and failing horribly and trying again. So I'm gonna create a new world. I'm probably gonna skip this in the video because it takes a good 5 minutes to do that. If I just start it, you'll see that it starts to load some stuff. Okay, you've got some options here. I'm just going to leave those default. And so there, it's created some continents, and it's just going to try and run mountains, and it's going to run stuff through it. It'll probably reject that one and come up with a bunch of others, but yeah. Okay, here we go, picking our embark location for our world, which was called The Dimensions of Soul. Probably has a proper name. It was listed on the menu, but I don't remember what it was. Anyway, so now I can wander around the map and I can choose a location. There was one thing I did notice, it's quite rare. Over here, there is an accessible volcano. So I might be tempted to give that a try. I'm not going to do any kind of challenge. You can do all kinds of challenges with your dwarves with Dwarf Fortress to make things a little more interesting. But I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to do a fairly normal run. I'm just going to have a look around this world for a second. On the sort of left here, there's a couple of civilizations over here. It's probably a dwarven civilization. In fact, let's have a look at where the civilizations are, if I can remember how to tab between the different modes. Alright. So we've got a couple of different dwarven civilizations going on there. We've got the Tenacious Abbey up in the mountains in the right, top right. We've got the Worthy Mechanism hanging around in the middle. The Tombs of Culminating on the island to the south. Volcano of Blushes again in the middle. The Leafy Pillars kind of scattered around. Not many settlements with the Leafy Pillars. I can't see any settlements. These poor guys, they haven't got any settlements. The Ring of Destiny again up in the right. The Cobalt Salve is on the island to the left. And the Eternal Castle of Gulfs. Yeah, I can't see any of theirs either, so I guess they're not doing much these days. I can pick which of those civilizations. They're all dwarven civilizations. I can pick where I want to go. I'm going to have to start where some other people aren't. It looks like this area up here, this mountain, is fairly unsettled. It looks like... I'm just going to switch back to regular mode. It looks like this mountain up here is fairly unsettled, but it's going to be really, really cold because it's right up with the ice sheet, so I don't know about that. They may well go for that volcano, because volcanoes bring lava, and lava is fun. Again, with a capital F. No, there's an aquifer going to hang there. Of course there's an aquifer. You can... I'm not going to explain what an aquifer is, or how to beat them. You can do them particularly if you've got a volcano in the middle. They are super easy to get through with the volcano, but I'm not going to bother. I'm going to pick somewhere, and I will come back to this when I've chosen a location. Okay, I think this is where I'm going to go, up in the top left island of the world. My civilization is the Cobalt Salve on the left-hand island there, and I'm extending their settlements up to the north. Now I don't know if you can see in the middle map where it says region, there's a great big bit of purple just below where the flashing X is. That's a goblin settlement, so I'm going to have to be a little careful or else I'm going to get surrounded by goblins. But I've got a nice area here. I've got a bit of mountain, I've got a river flowing through. I've got some deep metals and some flux stone, which is going to be important later. No aquifer. There's a few trees. I think I'm probably going to have difficulty with wood and trees. But there's clay as well and some shallow metals in the sort of foresty area. So I'm going to probably have to trade for wood, but everything else that I need I should have. So I'm going to go here and settle this area. So let's embark here. And I'm going to prepare carefully, because that's one of the things I actually want to do in my demonstration, is show how to prepare your dwarves. So you get this screen, you get your starting dwarves, your 7 dwarves with 10 points to spend on their skills, and if I tab you can see that there's a basic setup of items as well. So I'm just going to fiddle around with all this and get this sort of how I like it, and then I'll come back and kind of explain what I've done. Okay, I think we're done. I've got everything set up how I like it. I'm going to go through what I've got. So the first guy, I like to have somebody who's in charge of the expedition, a leader and someone to trade with the caravan when they come through the first time. So the first dwarf I've given Appraiser, Judge of Intent, Negotiator and Persuader, which are the various skills you need to trade. He'll be the organizer, he'll be the manager as well for a while until somebody else comes along, but he'll pick up organizer and record keeper fairly quickly, and then he'll just be kind of the trade guy. The next one I've given Woodcutter and Carpenter, and because Woodcutter means he'll come with an axe, I've given him a bit of the axeman skill all the way down here. All the way down here I've given him a bit of the axeman skill so that we've got a bit of a start to the military. I am embarking near a bunch of goblins, so I might be more inclined to take more military dwarves than normal, but at the moment I think I'll just stick with the sort of usual layout. But it's good to have at least somebody who knows how to handle a weapon. Third on the list is going to be my mason. He's also got a bit of engraving and building designing, just so he has the architecture labour turned on at the start. He's a competent hammerman as well. I'll get him a hammer fairly quickly and he'll be able to join the axemen and bringing down any bad guys that come along. The next guy is the grower and the brewer. He doesn't really need growing because all he will be doing is brewing, because that is all brewers ever do, is they make alcohol, because that is pretty much all they ever have time for. But whatever, he's got some growing as well for in the initial start when we just have to kind of assign the things out. Eventually he'll probably just stick to his brewing duties. We've got a guy who's a more general chef and otherwise kitchen person. He's a good cook, he's got a bit of growing skill, herbalist, picking berries, cheesemaker and milker. You'll see why those are important in a minute. And then the last two guys on the list are the two miners. You always need two miners. I would never go anywhere without two proficient miners. It's just so essential to getting things running. Two proficient miners who are both also competent wrestlers, because wrestler helps them deal with anything they find down there. Since they won't have a weapon, they'll just have their pick, and they'll end up wrestling whatever it is to death. So they need to be a competent wrestler in case they run into something, and they need to be an adequate swimmer in case they run into something watery. So that is those two, that helps them. If I go to the items tab, you see I've changed away from the default setup. Firstly, we'll go to animals on the right side here. I've got one yak bull, one yak cow, so they'll be able to make little yaks, and also I'll be able to milk the cow for to get some milk, which can turn into cheese, turn into food. I've got a pair of breeding dogs as well, because dogs are always useful, and I can put the puppies on guard duty and keep the goblins out. And I've got one cat. You don't want more than one cat because, well, I'll explain about cats at a later date, but having one cat is useful for keeping rats out of the fortress and keeping them off your food and so on. So they're useful to have around at the start. One single cat. On the left hand side we've got two picks for the two miners. We've got the anvil. Some people say you can embark without an anvil. I never embark without an anvil, because every time I do, the traders don't bring one, and if you don't have an anvil, you can't get an anvil. It's a very difficult situation, so I always stick with my anvil. I've got a lot of alcohol. I've increased the alcohol, and I've added the other two types. So I've got wine and ale, and I've got beer and rum down here. As much alcohol as you can bring is always necessary. I've got slightly more plump helmet spawn and pigtail seeds than normal, because those are the ones I always end up planting. There's cave wheat, sweet pod, and rock nuts. I like and dimple cup. I like to have some of those around. Dimple cup I don't really care about, but whatever, it comes in a bag. You'll notice I've put everything up to 41 or 21 or 11, one higher than a nice number. That's because when you get this stuff, it comes in barrels or bags or whatever it comes in, and most of those things hold 10 of something. So if you get 11 of something, you get a free bag or a free barrel. And it's the barrels that are really important, because barrels cost 10 to bring along in the embark. If I go to a new thing and go down to barrels, you'll see that I can add barrels directly, but that they cost 10 each. Why pay 10 for a barrel when you can just add an extra cave wheat, add an extra sweet pod, whatever. Those come in bags, admittedly, but with the alcohols, that beer will get drunk very quickly, and I'll have a spare barrel hanging around. So it's a good way to get yourself some free barrels, is to just have an extra one of everything. Never have 10, have 11. Never have 20, have 21, and so on. Dwarven rum's only 30x now stuff. Anyway, then we've got a bunch of meat. You need to bring a bunch of food, and so again you bring a bunch of single meats, because those get packed into separate barrels, so you get a bunch of free barrels there. Milk, similarly. Milk is the sort of secret trick to starting in Dwarf Fortress. You always bring milk, because it always costs one. They all come in separate barrels, so you get a bunch of free barrels, and the first thing you do is you get that guy with cheese making and milking. He goes and makes a bunch of cheese out of all that, and then it keeps for longer, and you can make some really nice meals. It makes everyone happy at the start when they're digging holes and have nowhere to sleep, and everything's still getting running. So you can make them some really nice meals out of all that milk, and it will almost immediately become spare barrels that I can turn into more alcohol, because alcohol is important. And lastly, some silk ropes. Ropes are useful. You need ropes for making wells and a few other things, and they're the kind of thing that you can get, but unless you've got the cloth industry going, or unless you're trading for them, they're a bit difficult to get hold of at the start. So I always like to bring a few along, cave spider silk ones, because they're cheaper than pigtail ropes. So 5 ropes, which will get me a well, and it will get me a couple of other things if I need them. So they're useful to have. The last thing I need to do is name the fort and name the group. So ceiling trotted now. I think we're gonna hit random a few times, see what we get. Spatter fortresses, treaty socket, ford painted, truss girder. Slapped helm. I like slapped helm. Let's go for Sezuk's on slapped helm. The group is going to be called, yeah, I like that, Folemble, the deep mechanism. So the deep mechanism is journeying to slapped helm, or in actual dwarfish, Folemble is journeying to, what was the fortress called? Sezuk's on. So yeah, that's it. We've got everything set. We've got all our doors are done. I'm just going to save this as a profile, so I have that for future. And I think, oh, I've got 49 points spare. Did I accidentally remove something? Oh, I must have removed something. What did I remove? Whatever it is will be important. I've still got all their points. Yeah. What did I remove? I didn't have 49 points spare a minute ago. I'm suspicious. Maybe I did. Maybe I miscounted. I've got beer and rum, I've got wine and ale, lobster, a bit of meat there. Dimple cut. No, I'd probably get rid of the dimple cut. It's useful for making dyes. No way. Let's buy it off a trader. Seriously, when I look at this in edit, I'm going to go nuts over what I may or may not have forgotten. Oh well, let's add some more meat. Badger meat. What else we got? Yak meat. Worm meat. Great horned owl meat. Cat popper, whatever a cat popper is. Olm. Not giant olms, regular olm. Drunion. Oh, I did notice something fun in the meat list. If we go down here, you can get what is this? You can get prepared honeybee brain. You can get that's not even the worst. You can get prepared louse brain, prepared tick brain. What kind of a meal? How many of those do you need to put into one pot to make a decent meal? That must have taken a while to prepare. I'll be honest. And I'm not sure I'd want to eat it, but you know, they do eat some weird stuff, these dwarves. I refuse to have dog and cat meat because I have dogs and cats with me. I know I have yak meat, but whatever. Literally, every type of meat it is. Let's just call that beef. Yeah, I've got 5 of those. I've got chinchilla meat, I've got pond grabber, I've got hoary marmot, I've got a bit tripe up top. I still got 30 points. Did I really not spend all of my points? Like, I could have sworn I well, if you don't know what to bring, more alcohol. There we go. Let's put that down to 15. That's it, nail. There we go. Right. That is probably good enough then. Yeah, we still got all our animals. Yeah, all those. Yeah. Alrighty. Yep. Save. Right. Let's go. Dwarves, set out. Strike the earth. There we go. You have arrived after a journey from the mountain homes into the forbidding wilderness beyond. Your harsh trek has finally ended. Your party of 7 is to make an outpost for the glory of all Let Mossibreak. I did not realise that was the civ name. There are almost no supplies left, but with stout labour comes sustenance. Yes, indeed. Whether by bolt, plough or hook, provide for your dwarves. You're expecting a supply caravan just before winter entombs you, but it is spring now. Enough time to delve secure lodgings ere the dingoes get hungry. A new chapter of dwarven history begins here at this place, says Uxon, slapped helm. Strike the earth. Yes, we will. Oh, ew, wow. Okay, that is snow. That is a lot of snow. I did say it was going to be cold up north. So this basically, oh, the river is frozen. Oh, that is not good. I thought I'd embark somewhere with a nice river. You know, I could get some water out of it, get some fish maybe, use it for defensive purposes if I needed to. That is completely frozen. Well, I hope it thaws in the summer, because if not, that is going to make my life difficult. If I have access to no fresh water, I am in trouble. Okay, so I'm going to have to figure out like where I'm going to start this fortress. That's going to take me a minute to figure out sort of how I'm going to do this. So I'll be back in a moment and when I've sort of figured out where my dwarves are going to start. Alright, I've been looking at this, trying to think sort of strategically, bearing in mind what's around, bearing in mind the Goblin Fortress to the south, and I think there's in the top left there's that sort of nice little basin area surrounded on the two sides by the mountain, makes kind of a pass through the mountain. I think I'm going to set up shop right in the middle there, in that little hole in the middle is where my sort of main entrance is going to be, and then I can wall off the whole pass and use the mountain as sort of natural cover. And I can build some archer posts on the top there, and completely wall off the area behind so that nothing can come in at all from that direction. And then I'll widen out the bit in front so that the caravans can get in and settle in there, I think. So I'm actually going to leave this here. I didn't realise I've been going on so long, sorry about that. I will come back to this next time when hopefully I will start digging out my fortress. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the introduction to Dwarf Fortress, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!